Today, we're delving into a case that took place in a small German town. You might think you can guess the outcome of this case, but the journey of solving it was full of unexpected twists and turns. What will surprise you even more is that a tiny ant played a crucial role in cracking it. On July 28, 1997, in the small town of Braunschweig in northern Germany, it was a Monday evening around 7 p.m. A hunter named Reitman rode his bicycle to a wooded area in the southern part of Braunschweig. He was on a mission to find an old sewer pipe, and he quickly found it. However, not far from the sewer pipe, in a thicket of bushes, he noticed what looked like a person. At first, Reitman thought it might be a drunk homeless person, but as he got closer, he was in for a shock. It wasn't a homeless person at all. It was clearly a human corpse. The hunter was genuinely scared, quickly pedaled away from the wooded area, returned home, and immediately called the police. The wooded area where the body was found was locally known as Teufelsacker, which, in German, also has another meaning: Devil's Field. This undoubtedly added an extra layer of mystery and horror to the discovery. Upon receiving the report, the local police immediately formed a special investigation team. Just 3 days earlier, they had received a missing person report involving a woman. Perhaps those of you who follow our channel might already be thinking that the body found in the woods could be that of the missing woman, right? The police had the same thought, but the confirmation of the identity would have to wait for the results of the autopsy. First, let's get a basic understanding of what the police found at the scene where the body was discovered. The victim was lying face up with severe head injuries. Only the forehead bones were intact. The skull and facial bones had been shattered and deformed to the point where it was impossible to identify the victim. Clearly, the killer either wanted to conceal the victim's identity or had a deep-seated hatred, resulting in a vicious attack. There were no signs of a struggle in the woods, not even broken branches, leading the police to believe that this was merely the dumping site and not the actual crime scene. Additionally, one of the victim's sandals was missing, and her body was covered in numerous ants. Let's remember this detail about the ants, as it will prove crucial in solving the case later on. Based on the pattern of the victim's injuries, forensic experts deduced that the murder weapon was likely a smooth, blunt object without sharp edges. The victim's identity was also confirmed. She was none other than Veronika Geyer, the honorary mayor of Bayernrode, the same woman who had gone missing just 3 days earlier. Bayernrode, with around 600 residents, is a small village located 35 kilometers east of Braunschweig, Germany. Veronika lived there with her husband on an old noble estate, and they raised 4 children together. Veronika was an outstanding woman, highly respected and beloved by many villagers. She was a devout religious teacher, and also managed a nursing home. When the shocking news of Veronika's murder suddenly reached her family and friends, they were left in disbelief and overwhelmed with questions. How could someone as successful and kind-hearted as Veronika meet such a brutal end? Who could harbor such deep hatred to commit such a heinous act? Veronika and her husband Klaus Geyer were well-known figures in Bayernrode. Klaus was a devout local pastor who had been involved in peace activism since the 1980s. He treated everyone around him with great kindness and had a talent for playing the piano. In the aftermath of the incident, one villager, during an interview, mentioned that the light of the couple's divinity shines throughout the village, and they were beloved by all. It was Klaus who, on the afternoon of July 25 at 5:45, made the call to report his wife missing. According to his account, Veronika had gone out for shopping in Braunschweig that afternoon and had not returned. The couple had originally planned to meet at a hotel in Braunschweig around 3:30 p.m., but Klaus waited for over an hour without any sign of his wife. He began to suspect that something was amiss and decided to report her missing to the police. You might start to have some suspicions about Klaus at this point. Not seeing his wife at 3:30 p.m. and reporting her missing before 6 p.m. seems unusually quick, doesn't it? The police thought the same way at the time, so they conducted a thorough inquiry into Klaus's activities that day. Klaus explained that on that day, his wife had driven their red Passat to Braunschweig around noon to pick up airplane tickets as they were planning to visit relatives in the United States in a few days. He, on the other hand, had left the house at around 3 p.m., driving his Volkswagen Golf. At 3:30 p.m., When Veronica didn't show up at the agreed-upon hotel, he became concerned. Over an hour later, around 4:30 p.m., still having no sign of her, Klaus made a call from a phone booth near the hotel to their home, but no one answered, indicating that Veronica had not returned. Subsequently, Klaus visited several places in Braunschweig, including the travel agency where they had booked the flight tickets, in his search for Veronica but couldn't find her. He finally returned home and made the call to report her missing. Later, the police contacted the travel agency for information. They confirmed that Klaus had indeed visited the agency at around 5 p.m., but Veronica had been there earlier, around 1 p.m., to collect the plane tickets. After reporting his wife missing, Klaus took it upon himself to create flyers to help locate her and distributed them in Braunschweig's city center the next day. What's remarkable is that even before the police could fully comprehend the situation, Klaus included a sentence on the flyers that said, "It is suspected that my wife's disappearance may be related to a criminal case." Meanwhile, the police expanded their search for Veronica. One day later, on July 27th, near the train station, they found Veronica's red Passat car. It appeared as though the car had been parked hastily, diagonally across the parking space lines. However, there were no signs of damage to the vehicle, and it was locked. Looking through the window, it was clear that there was an open handbag on the front passenger seat. Upon inspecting the contents of the handbag, the police discovered that the cash was missing from the wallet. Nevertheless, Veronica's ID and bank cards were still there, indicating that Veronica hadn't left of her own accord. It seemed more likely that she had been robbed and then disappeared. Inside the handbag, the police also found a receipt from July 25th for Veronica's shopping. It was the same day Veronica was reported missing. The receipt revealed that Veronica had purchased an ice cream scoop set from a store in Braunschweig's city center. Store employees confirmed that Veronica had indeed visited the store that day to buy the ice cream scoop set and was alone at the time. After extensive interviews and summarizing witness testimonies, the police constructed a rough timeline of Veronica's actions on July 25th. Around noon, she had left home in her car. At 12:43, she picked up the plane tickets from the travel agency. At approximately 1 p.m., she bought 2 pairs of jeans, and at 1:32, she purchased the ice cream scoop set from another store. 10 minutes later, she bought some truffle-filled chocolates. She was last seen around 2 p.m., and after that, she disappeared without a trace. On the other hand, the police began to paint a picture of the victim and her family's public image. Her husband, Klaus, was a local pastor who had long been involved in peace activism and served as the leader of the religious group, Redemption Action. Veronica, the victim, was a religious teacher known for her sincerity and kindness, and she held significant influence and popularity in the local community. She had been elected as the honorary mayor of Bayernrode. It's safe to say that both of them held important social positions in the local community. According to their friends, the couple appeared to be quite independent and had their respective pursuits and careers. However, their family life seemed very harmonious and happy. Nonetheless, the police discovered a hidden secret in Klaus and Veronica's home that contradicted the image their friends had portrayed. In Klaus's home, the police found numerous love letters that he had been hiding. These love letters revealed that Klaus, the highly respected pastor of Bayernrode villagers, had several extramarital affairs. As the police later learned, on the evening of July 25th, the same day Veronica went missing, Klaus had even called one of his lovers, who had driven to the pastor's home that evening. In a shocking revelation, they spent the night together in the same bed where Klaus and Veronica usually slept. This indicated that Klaus was already quite confident that his wife Veronica wouldn't be coming home that night, or he wouldn't have had the audacity to spend the night with another woman in their own home. Moreover, what made the police suspicious was that on the 26th, the day after his wife went missing, Klaus called and canceled the tickets for their trip to the United States and the hotel reservations. At that time, the police had not yet classified the case as a missing persons case because Veronica had not been missing for long, and her body had not been found. So how did Klaus decide so early that his wife wouldn't return later? His early report to the police, the premature preparation of flyers, the cancellation of the flight to the United States, and inviting a lover over to spend the night on the night of Veronica's disappearance. All these abnormal signs led the police to consider Klaus their prime suspect. They believed that Klaus's seemingly proactive actions in distributing missing person flyers were, in fact, an attempt to divert the police's attention. On July 29th, the day after Veronica's body was discovered, the police arrested and detained Pastor Klaus. During the interrogation, Klaus denied any involvement in his wife Veronica's murder, claiming the allegations were absurd. Bertram, Klaus's defense attorney, had extensive experience in criminal defense. He firmly believed in Klaus's innocence, not only because the existing evidence was insufficient to accuse Klaus as the murderer, but also because it seemed preposterous that a devout pastor like Klaus would commit such a heinous act. Bertram was more inclined to believe that someone with a deep hatred for the pastor had killed Veronica and framed Klaus for the crime. Simultaneously, the police deployed search dogs to inspect Klaus's Volkswagen Golf. They suspected that Klaus had used this vehicle to transport Veronica's body to the Teufelsacker forest where it was later found. However, the police dogs didn't detect any traces of a body in Klaus's car, and there were no bloodstains or other suspicious clues. The only unusual discovery was a pair of rubber rain boots found inside a plastic bag in the car's trunk. The soles of the boots were caked with mud. The police sent these boots to the state police for further examination. On the same day, the police also moved Veronica's red Volkswagen Passat, which had been parked near the train station, to a secure location. Inside Veronica's car, they found several music cassette tapes and a pair of sunglasses. On the driver's side door, there was a miniature crowbar. Why would there be a crowbar in the car? Looking at the shape of the crowbar, the police immediately recalled the forensic expert's inference that the murder weapon should be a smooth, flat object without sharp edges. Could this small crowbar be the murder weapon? The police also sent this miniature crowbar to the state police for further examination. On August 15th, over half a month after Veronica's body was discovered, the village held a funeral for her. She was buried in a small cemetery near her home, and the entire village was shrouded in sadness and anger. During the funeral, a stranger shouted loudly outside the cemetery, calling Klaus a murderer. Many journalists were also present at the funeral, carrying cameras of all sizes, hoping to record the event. In reality, both the police and the public suspected that Veronica's husband, Klaus, was the murderer, but they were frustrated by the lack of substantial evidence to implicate him. One day, the police received a tip that some suspicious bloodstains had been found on an asphalt road in a field in another village. The police quickly rushed to the scene for investigation. Coincidentally, this stretch of road was only about 900 meters away from where Veronica's body had been discovered. Blood drops were spaced at intervals of 60 to 80 centimeters along the road. The police followed these bloodstains for 770 meters, marking every bloodstain on the road. What puzzled the police was that these continuous bloodstains were extremely small, except for one spot that was easily visible to the naked eye. This particular bloodstain was different in shape and size from the others. Just at that moment, it began to rain, and the police didn't have time to preserve all the evidence from the rain. In their urgency, the police parked their car over the larger, more visible bloodstain. Fortunately, the rain didn't completely wash away these bloodstains. After analyzing these bloodstains, it was determined that the larger bloodstain belonged to the victim, Veronica, while the smaller bloodstains were from an injured German Shepherd dog. It was this series of bloodstains from the German Shepherd that led the police to Veronica's bloodstains. Based on their analysis, the police believed that Veronica had suffered her first heavy blow on this stretch of road. However, this location was 925 meters away from the dump site. Considering this distance, it seemed unlikely that the perpetrator could have moved the body manually. The most likely scenario was that the perpetrator had used a vehicle to transport the body. So, the police decided to interrogate Klaus again, but Klaus continued to insist on his innocence, looking like an actor who had wandered onto the wrong set. In an effort to solve the case quickly, the police decided to make some of the case's clues and details public, hoping to get help from the public in providing leads. One witness claimed to have seen Veronica on the 26th, the day after her disappearance, buying a train ticket. She recognized her because the lady she saw was wearing the exact same necklace as the one in the photo. However, this testimony was later found to be unreliable after further investigation by the police. There were many similar unconfirmed witness accounts. For example, on July 25th, the morning of Veronica's disappearance, A witness claimed to have seen Klaus buying a spherical hammer at a local building materials market. However, at that time, Klaus was at home. There were even witnesses who were very certain that they saw Veronica wearing knee-high rain boots drinking near the train station. However, these witnesses later expressed doubts about what they had seen. In total, the police received nearly 200 leads, but these leads were too weak. They still couldn't find the murder weapon, and they couldn't determine how the perpetrator had transported the body. At this point, the results of the tests on the crowbar found in Veronica's car had come in. Experts had compared the crowbar to the wounds on Veronica's head and concluded that it was not the murder weapon. If the crowbar had been used for the crime, the wounds on Veronica's head would have had a different shape. Additionally, the test results for the rubber rain shoes found in Klaus's car were available. The analysis showed that the mud on the shoe soles was very likely from the forest where Veronica's body had been found. However, Klaus denied this and claimed that Veronica had also worn those rain boots. Coincidentally, forensic analysis of the rain boots revealed Veronica's DNA inside them. So, the test results for the rain boots only indicated that the boots had been near the crime scene, but they couldn't confirm who had worn them last. A month later, the German telecommunications company sent Klaus's home phone records. Do you remember Klaus's claim that he had made a phone call from a phone booth near a hotel in the city center to his home on the day his wife disappeared? Well, after checking all the call records, the police found out that the call had not been made from a phone booth in the city center but from a suburban phone booth, which was only 2.3 kilometers away from the location where Veronica's body had been discovered. One witness claimed that on the afternoon of the 25th, the day Veronica disappeared, he had driven past the small road near the forest and saw a red car parked there. It looked very suspicious, so the witness deliberately slowed down his car. What he saw was indeed a red Volkswagen Passat, and there was a man with a big nose standing near the car. When the man noticed someone passing by, he appeared quite nervous. Later, this witness identified the man he had seen that day as Klaus by comparing his photo. However, it's worth noting that this testimony was not ultimately accepted. On February 2, 1998, the court began the trial of Pastor Klaus. The courtroom was packed, and the media described Klaus as the death pastor. During the trial, a total of 76 witnesses and 9 experts provided testimonies. The pastor's extramarital affairs were also a focal point of questioning, but none of these provided substantial evidence. Surprisingly, the decisive evidence came from those rubber rain boots. In the mud stuck to the soles of the boots, the police found a nearly dried-out ant. Do you remember? When Veronica's body was discovered, it was covered in ants. Under a microscope, a researcher named Bernhard identified the ant found on the boots based on its color and physical characteristics. He determined that it was the same species of ant found on Veronica's body. This ant species was not commonly found in the local area. Due to the fact that the rain boots had both Klaus and Veronica's DNA inside them, it's possible that the last person to wear the shoes was either Klaus or Veronica. The crucial question became the probability of who was wearing those boots at the time. There were 2 possibilities. First, that Klaus wore the boots at the scene of the body dump and stepped on the same type of ants found there, and second, that either Klaus or Veronica wore the boots while walking in the vicinity of Bayern Road and stepped on the same type of ants. After careful analysis by experts, the probability of the second scenario occurring was only 0.2%. Therefore, the police were highly confident that Klaus was indeed wearing those rain boots at the crime scene. Mark Bennick, a renowned forensic biologist who flew in from New York, played a crucial role in the trial. He used the analysis of corpse insects and environmental temperatures to determine that Veronica's body had been lying in that forest since the afternoon of the 25th. During that time frame, from 2 to 5 p.m., Klaus had no alibi. According to Bennick's recollection, this trial involved a significant investment of resources. As one of the few experts in corpse insects at the time, he even had insects shipped to the U.S. for specialized analysis. Based on a series of scientifically confirmed evidence, the prosecution reconstructed the events of the day. On the 25th, Klaus met Veronica after she finished shopping, but their encounter escalated into a heated argument due to Klaus's extramarital affair. As the argument intensified, Veronica insisted on a divorce and separation, which would have meant the end of Klaus's career and his public image collapsing, a reality he couldn't accept. On their way back, they stopped at the first crime scene, and the argument continued. Fueled by anger, Klaus used a tool to strike Veronica's head and face 9 times before disposing of her body. However, the specific tool used and the method of disposal remain unknown. In the end, Klaus was sentenced to 8 years in prison, becoming the first clergyman in modern German history to be convicted of murder. When the verdict was announced, Klaus broke down, shouting that it was all absurd. He maintained his innocence until the end. After serving 5 years of his sentence, Klaus was released early, but he passed away a year later due to cancer. He continued to insist on his innocence until his death, even wearing his wedding ring, a symbol of his marriage to Veronica. Klaus's defense attorney, during an interview, remarked, "The priest was on his deathbed, and admitting his guilt wouldn't have had dire consequences for a dying man. Yet he still refused to confess. I have every reason to believe that the priest was innocent." To this day, the murder weapon remains undiscovered, and the process of moving the body from the crime scene to the disposal site remains unclear. Some residents of Bayern Road still cannot fathom that their pastor could commit such a gruesome act. The case, filled with mysteries, has been closed, largely due to the pastor's death. Well, that's the end of this case. Do you have any thoughts on this matter? Feel free to share your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. We'll see you next time.